What the hell?
The Matrix wouldn't be The Matrix without its iconic costumes. Released in 1999, it arrived at the peak of a trend for black trench coats and cybergoth fashion. It was also the first Hollywood blockbuster to wear its anime influences on its sleeve, with the Wachowski sisters drawing from a wide range of sources including Ghost in the Shell, Blade Runner, and The Invisibles, a 1990s comic book series about a team of magical, time-travelling anti-heroes. The Matrix captured the pop culture zeitgeist in an edgy, forward-thinking way that mainstream blockbusters rarely manage, and its aesthetic vision still feels fresh today.
We're in.
Hi there, I'm Gavia Baker-Whitelaw, and this is Behind the Seams, decoding the world of costume design. Unlike Blade Runner, where the outlandish costumes have some kind of connection to the world building, The Matrix's most famous outfits are purely designed to look cool. When Neo is still going by the name Thomas Anderson, he's portrayed as a stereotypical 90s office drone in an ill-fitting suit. Then, when he's pulled out of the Matrix by Morpheus, we discover that in the real world, everyone wears threadbare, colourless fabrics, indicating that human civilization has run out of materials to make more complicated clothes. It's a brief, realistic touch in an otherwise fantastical setting. And when the heroes jack back into the Matrix, they all choose a very specific style of outfit, sleek and monochromatic, often involving leather or PVC. They're all dressed for a night out at a goth club, or in Trinity's case, a fetish party. There's literally zero attempt to explain why they all look like this, or why they wear sunglasses in the dark, but that really doesn't matter. The Matrix is all about the aesthetic, and the movie just wouldn't work as well if everyone was wearing jeans and a t-shirt.
Freeze!
Unlike the Wachowskis' debut film, Bound, The Matrix isn't an especially sexual movie. But its fetish influences are obvious in the costume design, particularly the skin-tight PVC worn by characters like Trinity. Like Inception, its view of a mind-controlled reality says more about the filmmaker's tastes than the film's philosophical background. In Inception, Christopher Nolan portrayed his dreamscape as a neat and orderly corporate landscape populated by people in tailored suits. Whereas in The Matrix, the Wachowskis make it clear that all the main characters have total control over their appearance, and they choose to wear black leather and PVC. This creates a cohesive, memorable aesthetic that still looks incredibly cool 20 years later. And from a filming perspective, those shiny costumes also served a practical purpose. Costume designer Kim Barrett has worked on most of the Wachowskis' movies, and in my view is one of Hollywood's unsung greats. The Matrix was only her third feature film, and offered a lot of unusual technical challenges. As we all know, the Wachowskis introduced some groundbreaking new techniques in this film, including bullet time. The Matrix also involved a lot of wire-based action sequences, which weren't very common in Western filmmaking at the time. So Kim Barrett had to design costumes that looked cool and also had places to discreetly hide wires for mid-air action sequences. But from an aesthetic point of view, the most important element here was texture. Visually speaking, The Matrix is a relatively dark movie. However, it's never murky or hard to make out. The lighting is excellent, providing plenty of contrast so viewers can follow action scenes and conversations. There's also a recurring green colour scheme, tying into the film's digital text, emphasising its cyberpunk roots, and giving Keanu Reeves an unhealthy greenish glow during his earlier scenes. These days, it's normal for blockbusters to change their entire colour scheme digitally during post-production, but in 1999, this kind of colour correction was relatively new. The Matrix achieved much of its green tone through practical choices, like the costume designer putting all of the white shirts through a green dye wash. Tapping into the look of Ghost in the Shell, some of the Matrix's costumes are very reflective. So while the film works with a limited colour palette, including a lot of black, a character like Trinity provides plenty of highlights to draw the eye. It's very similar to the old filmmaking technique of setting nighttime scenes during a rainstorm, or simply spraying streets with water to provide a more reflective surface for the camera. This prevents the screen from being filled with a murky, matte black image. You can see something similar in the Blade movies, the first of which came out a year before The Matrix. Blade also wears an all-black costume, and is another iconic figure from the late 90s craze for black trench coats. But thanks to the film's distinctive lighting and textural contrasts, he's always perfectly visible. Meanwhile, during The Matrix's brighter scenes, we often see Neo wearing fabrics that absorb light, instead of reflecting it. Neo now stands out as a sleek, dark figure against a pale background. The Matrix's costumes align perfectly with the film's cyberpunk spirit.
Lie back, lift up your shirt.
What is that thing?
In 1999, mainstream audiences were already familiar with the cyberpunk genre. William Gibson's novel Neuromancer kickstarted the trend in 1984, followed by the movie Blade Runner and the original Ghost in the Shell manga in 1989. They envisioned a dystopian future inspired by 1980s corporate culture, combining cybernetic technology with post-punk fashion and a fear of multinational conglomerates controlling a poverty-stricken underclass. Western creators were often fascinated with East Asia, including the numerous Japanese influences in the work of William Gibson, and the obvious influence of anime and Hong Kong action cinema in The Matrix. I'm a longtime fan of Cyberpunk and may discuss it more in a future episode, but for now, let's just say that a lot of modern Cyberpunk has failed to progress beyond an image created in the 1980s. The Matrix, however, did actually feel like a step forward. Moving on from the grimy aesthetic of earlier cyberpunk films like Strange Days or Blade Runner, it tapped into the late 90s trend for cybergoth fashion, delivering a monochrome colour scheme with neon highlights. The main characters' costumes make them look almost like androids with smooth plastic bodies to match their superhuman combat skills. And their fashion choices also put them squarely in the realm of the counterculture, echoing the punk side of cyberpunk. The film draws an obvious visual contrast between the conservative suits worn by Agent Smith and his allies, and the costumes worn by the heroes. Even at the start of the film, Neo is a rebel. He lives a double life as a hacker who hangs out with punks and goths, but he has to retain his conventional appearance in order to keep his office job. It's a classic Gen X fantasy, overlapping with films like Fight Club. And this aesthetic would be instantly recognisable to the film's target audience, because Gothic fashion was a key image for rebels and outcasts in 90s pop culture. The Matrix came out in the same year that mainstream media outlets linked Marilyn Manson to the Columbine high school shootings and turned black trench coats into an emblem of teenage violence. So while earlier cyberpunk films drew from the original era of DIY punk fashion, The Matrix was firmly rooted in 90s influences like Marilyn Manson and Missy Elliott. And by casting its heroes as counterculture outcasts, the Wachowskis primed viewers to tap into the film's transgender subtext. For more on this, I've linked to a video in the show notes which explores The Matrix's role as a trans narrative. In the same way that The Matrix's cinematography and fight scenes borrowed heavily from Ghost in the Shell, its overall concept and characters lifted a lot of material from The Invisibles, a cult favourite DC Vertigo comic by writer Grant Morrison and various artists. The Invisibles was full of punk nostalgia, millennial dread, outlandish fashion, and stories that blurred the lines between surreal dreams and reality. The main team included a glamorous trans woman and a power couple who loved to wear glossy fetish gear. The Wachowskis and costume designer Kim Barrett took some of these ideas and reformed them into something more suitable for a Hollywood blockbuster. And in turn, The Matrix's aesthetic was incredibly influential. Over the next few years, we started to see more films like Underworld and Equilibrium, starring gothic heroes with sleek, monochrome leather outfits. Like the gritty spacefaring aesthetic of Alien, or the 1960s futurism of Star Trek, The Matrix became a new aesthetic unto itself. It'll be interesting to see what Lana Wachowski does with The Matrix 4, more than 20 years after the original movie came out. Thanks for watching Behind the Seams. What are your thoughts on the Wachowskis? Feel free to leave a comment below. And if you liked this episode, please like the video and hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.